Artist to Art with Aaron Jack, because I'm Aaron Jack. And we're going to have Mo Lee with some art, business, very private art, artist to art. There we go. Welcome, welcome. Here we go. We're going live. We're going live because it's what we do here on Artist to Art. Hey!
Hey,
You got
Aaron.
it. How are
It's
you?
my first live, so I just learned how to join to request. That's so exciting. Super nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. I'm glad to have you on here. It's just like awesome. And we're having so many awesome people that are joining us right now.
Luckily, that's a very good and successful experience for me. All the tech works, lovely people joining. That's very cheerful.
Yeah. So where are you right now?
I'm in Madrid, the capital of Spain and a very important cultural capital in Europe. And I've been calling Spain my new home for the past 8 years. Both me and my partner migrated from different countries and we decided to stay here a little bit. So now I'm in Madrid.
Nice. So why don't you tell us a little bit for everybody who's new to your channel? Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing over the past while and how did you end up there?
Yeah, so originally I'm from China. I was studying in art school called Central Academy of Drama, a very famous, renowned performing art school in Beijing. And through my study, I met a lot of contemporary artists. I became friends, become their collaborator, assistants. I joined many projects, and I started to know what is contemporary art, performance art, and I started to like it. I was like, I want to become an artist. But then, of course, as soon as I got into the world of contemporary art, I realized that a lot of things are very strange. That is not like the common sense that I thought I should know, because both my parents are artists and I came from an art school. So I thought, okay, I should know everything already about contemporary art. But no, it was very shocking experience for me when I have conversations with my artist friends, quite today, quite internationally renowned. Back then, we were all like kind of emerging. Well, I was the youngest of the group. They were in their 30s, 40s. I was a 19-year-old college freshman woman. And then I learned a lot from them, and I realized that contemporary art is very different, and it really made me interested. And then I continued my study in Australia, in Germany, and in France. And then back when I started working in Spain, I decided to take a break and go to a business school to, let's say, study the business side of art, because I couldn't approach it from the art side. I just couldn't, because all the things, all the profile, who I am, is against, like, the art world has a lot of stigma, especially against certain kind of people. Let's say, I wouldn't say female minority, but okay, like a lot of female minorities can have a big success because they fit into certain profile. But I don't think I fit it, and I tried to understand the art world better. So I went to study an MBA. So that's a Master in Business Administration from a world top ranking university in Spain. And then after the study, well, actually during the study, we had an incubator program that I can have my own startup. So I said, okay, I'm going to pitch my professors and some classmates to see if they want to join. And then a classmate said, oh, that's interesting. I want to join your project. So I took it more seriously and developed this idea of artists, let's say, business approach to incubate emerging artists. And a lot of people told me very interesting things like, oh, we never thought about this way, and you should do something about it. You should write a book, write content, because that's a very new way of looking at art, because there are few people who both have MFA and MBA. So that's how I came into the, I wouldn't say conclusion, but a certain kind of methodology to approach art world from the business side.
Wow. So are you currently making work as well, or is it like your work is mostly focused on that art business side?
Uh, in the past 10 years, I've been working with several artists. One of my, well, closest artist friend is artist Li Wei. He's the flying Chinese artist that he flew everywhere in Venice Biennale. And I mentioned him a lot in my content because I worked close with him. And that's a part of creation I do as a collaborator, as a co-artist. And all the Instagram content that we've been creating is original content. We quote famous or successful or a refreshing artists from both art and business. And then all the portraits were drawn on Procreate. So that's my partner in life and in business, Greg. So he does the drawing and we do the co-creation of the content. And for the moment, although myself, I'm a photographer, that's the reason I came to Spain. I got a job offer to work as a photographer. I came here and I settled. So I also do photography, but that's now taking a back seat because I'm a full-time kind of content creator. Because when you start a business, no matter art business or any business, you will spend a lot of time or money, either way, in promoting the project, building the audience, and putting your message out there. So that's a lot of work. So now everything else took a back seat. And then to sustain our lives, we also had other commitments. So that's maybe one day when the project is more, let's say, booming with more people joining the project, and make it a full team. And then I can have some time for myself and for my own projects as well.
Wow, it sounds like you've had a lot of projects going on through this whole like finding this art and business and how do you, and so is it like, would you call it like you have like this coaching side, you have different sides to this whole thing?
Yes, I tried everything. So I would say 3 years ago, around 3 years ago, one of the reasons that pushed me to study MBA and to get more business knowledge in the startup world is because my initial approach failed. So me and my partner, we got in touch with some European artists and we tried to incubate them, try to say, okay, you have good skills, you have a sense of, let's say, the urge to create, we will help you, we'll do everything for you so you can succeed and we will be a part of your success. And it's also for us very satisfying. And we tried with 3 different artists and none of them actually created any works. None of them. So we realized that, look, there is a way of saying, although I'm not exactly religious, but there is a way of saying is God helps the one who helps themselves, right? So we're like, okay, how can we get artists who do not only say, I want to make it, but actually tick all the boxes of the fact that I want to make it? So how to do that, right? And also how to create a culture of artists approaching their art in a more consistent and business way.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like parenting school. Imagine if you love your kid, you want him to succeed, everything. But then how to approach your emotion? How do you channel all of this desire and hope and wishes you have for your little baby boy or baby girl to put it into actionable plans? To say, okay, in order for my kid to succeed, I need to feed him well. So I need to learn nutrition, right? So I need to learn sports. I need to, get myself organized. It's a bit like that. So try to find a way to put through those messages without being rejected. Because a lot of artists will say, no, I don't want business. No, I don't want to talk money. No, business is filthy, it's dirty. European artists, a lot of them, they're like this. Because after living here in Europe for 10 years, I can tell you that it's a very different culture than American artists, than Chinese artists.
Interesting. How do you find that difference between the artists who are you finding in Europe and like kind of the culture around art in Europe versus China versus America?
The culture, I would say there are two, it's bifold. One part is because of the history. Artist has always been commissioned by the rich royal family. So they never had to really worry about the market, right? The people. And for them to be recognized by the people, it's like a classic music performer trying to be accepted in the pop rock world. A lot of people say that's bad. Don't go there. Right? Like your own professor will say, don't go there. You're in chamber music. Stay that way. Right. So that there is like a resistance from the academic world to go popular. Right. And then there's another side is the tax system. So to be able to work in the US, you can make money. And if you made enough money, like $6,000 a year, then you declare as professional activity. If not, you declare as hobby. In Europe, there is not such flexibility. You cannot declare it like that. Especially as a foreigner, you earn $1, €1 from your art, you pay as a professional. And the license fee is enormous. You pay €300, that is a little more than $300, just to be able to, as a freelance, as a license. It's almost like being incorporated, okay? That's your social security plus being incorporated. And then you pay accountant, because usually likely if you're not good with accounting, you have to pay for accountant. And also to save your time, you pay accountant, that's anything from 70 to 100. And then you pay maybe a studio, maybe you pay other kind of licenses and other kind of fees. And you have a website, you have all this kind of taxes, fees to maintain your business. You have a Facebook ads, you put all those costs. So it adds up. And then on top of that, if you sell art, you pay 21% VAT, which is value added tax, which is sales tax. And then after that, you pay from 19 to 45% personal income taxes after everything, after all of those license fees, costs that you have. So after that, it doesn't make much sense for emerging artists to even start making art. Because the moment you make art and you sell it for like $1,000 and people, let's say the IRS, right, the Hacienda caught you, they give you an enormous penalty and you're not even proud to work. It's the work ethic here. If you're not even proud to work because you just pay. So that's the pretty much whole Europe is like that. I did study European law as well. So that I can say, unfortunately, it's like that in the European culture, in the business world. And that's why when you have a startup, you go to San Francisco. You don't go to another European city and say, I have a startup here, it's our headquarters. It doesn't make sense tax-wise. So financially, culturally, there are a lot of things against the artists making art business in Europe. But this is not the only place like that. There are also other resistance or other stigma artists may encounter when you want to make business.
Wow, that's incredible. Like when I was in Spain, when I was in Madrid, actually, I met a lot of artists. But that's so fascinating. Like that there's so much to just get into it there in Madrid.
Exactly.
Wow,
There are a lot of things happening, a lot of culture, but those usually you have to be affiliated with an organization where they have their infrastructure, paperwork. So you join a community, an NGO, you join another entity. To be a freelance business entrepreneur in general, as an artist or as a creative entrepreneur, it's a lot more difficult. So for those fellow artists in America, you really have no excuse to not to be incorporated, because the enormous amount of work that has to be done outside of the USA just to be incorporated, it's discouraging. So I would say on the other flip side, if you're not in a country where they actually punish you to work and restrict you from making business, go ahead and become incorporated.
So could you tell us a little bit more about that incorporation? Like why would an artist want to be incorporated versus like a solopreneur, kind of.
Yeah, well, solopreneur, you can also be an incorporated solopreneur, right? So I would say entrepreneur and solopreneur is the structure in your team. If you outsource everything, because you can't do everything, right? Solopreneurs outsource a lot of things, so they have a closed circle of candidate pools where they would just have help contracted, and is a little less stable because maybe one day those people are not around anymore, they have other plans in life. So your consistency and output can be a little bit volatile because maybe one day your web designer goes away and you have a completely different look and feel of your website, right? So that's a challenge of solopreneurs. Being an artist, being a solopreneur, you either have to take on a lot of duties and learn them and practice and do them yourself, or you have to hire people, which is money and time and management and risks of them running away, even with your works and with your website. Like they erase the password, running away, and blackmailing people. That we have also encountered a lot of bad practices in the world in general. Or you become an entrepreneur, you learn management kind of skills, and you have a team that are very stable, maybe a core team of 2-3 people besides yourself, and then you have very fair plans to share your profit, which is let's say another thing that a lot of people are not willing to do, because sharing profits, you lose your business basically, right? So you give equity, you lose your business, right? You dilute. You don't have 100%. You're not really, you're in control, but you don't have 100% control, because other people are working for you, and you have a lot of liabilities, and you have to be able to pay them and feed their families as well. So the decisions are very heavy. So it's a choice. I wouldn't say either you are incorporated officially or not officially. In some states, they don't obligate you to be an official entrepreneur to start making your art business. You can just go and start and then see how it goes along the way. But I think it's this two different kind of mentality or two different kind of business model. Either you either have teams or you contract people. But this is, I think, is not even the most important, because either way, if you want to do it, either way you will find a way, right? So either you're more comfortable paying people and not contracting them or giving them shares. Like a startup, depending on the people you meet, maybe you meet people, your partners in work and in life, and you become one, and then you work as a family, you incorporate your cousins as well, and then in the project it can be, for everyone's different. But for me, the biggest difficulty or the resistance is to tell artists that your art is actually a business.
And how do people like, how do you find that grows from once they're like, oh, okay, my art is a business, now what? Like, how does that move and evolve for people that you've seen? Like, what are some paths that you've seen to that?
I would say it's the relationship they see their collectors. Is a changing moment? How do they see the collectors? When you sell your first work, maybe you feel lucky because you're like, oh, someone liked my work, and you feel he's a friend already, right? Like, he likes my work. He feel like my long lost soulmate, and you're like, click. So that could be the first sale. And then the second sale, you're like, oh, this is my market price. This is my worth. I can make it as a professional artist. And you start selling like a salesperson, starting to be a salesperson. But I want artists to look at the process of selling their works as issuing shares in the stock market. Or let's say you are a Bitcoin miner. You're mining the Bitcoin. And each work you create, you mine, is your token. And the people who acquire this token have a share of you. And what is your goal in your business is, okay, I'm going to say this, but this is what my business professor said, and that shocked a lot of people. So as a business manager, what is your sole purpose? So what is the biggest mission you have? Is maximizing shareholders' value. Right? So they have sacrificed a part of their assets, right? They paid you, right? However much, depending on how much they have, how much you pay, but they have given you that money, which is a token, right? Like, they treat the money and they bought a piece of work, symbolically or not. They acquire the work and they hope this work may grow value, and at least may not lose value, right? May not deteriorate, might not fall apart, right? It has to be something that they can hold on to for at least archival quality 80 years, right? So that is, let's say, that amount of time it has to stay there, and if it gains value, it's everybody's happy. So how can you make sure that everybody who bought your work, who had given you in exchange their hard-earned money, how can you ensure that your business will provide more value for your shareholders?
So it's interesting. Gina brings up that there's a business in New York that's called Masterworks that sells stock in famous artworks like Warhol and
I
Picasso.
heard about it. Yes, I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say hi to Henrietta. We have Tiffany, and we've got Roberto. We've got, I know Henrietta. We've got CIUA from Barcelona. We've got a lot of people. We've got a lot of awesome people, Vivian. So I'm really curious in how you might see that kind of like that as art, as kind of like mining these coins, being able to value, grow that value. Like, what are ways in which you see artists being successful in this? Or you imagine, or you can even imagine that artists could be successful.
I know what you mean, but I think you're looking at the side of the investor side who invest in mature artists, which is a very different, I would say that is the IPO after you have stocks, is publicly owned. And it's you have a lot of people, like today, if you go to the stock market, you see Apple. As you can buy a share, right? It will be a very small fraction of Apple shares, and you cannot decide anything, but you can make money. So those people seek value in purely in value in terms of money. But when you're selling as an emerging artist in the primary market, so we don't talk about secondary market. So as an artist yourself, when you are issuing those shares, it's almost like pre-IPO or pre-ICO, so pre-initial coin offering. It's almost like you're making a startup. And all those people who bought it directly from you, the first of the primary market, they are your co-founders. Imagine they're your angel investors. It's the A round, it's the pre-A round. So it's really a lot to do with you have that personal connection as well. They invest in you normally because they like your work as well, not because you are Warhol, right? So there is an emotion, there is something that they believe that what you are doing is good for the world. If they seek money, they invest in Van Gogh, they don't invest in you. Because if they invest in a startup, usually if you invest in 20 startups, maybe one will survive after 18 months. So it's a very big risk. So if they want to invest in you, normally there's something more to it. So that is from the point of view when you start selling. And with the growth, it's like Apple. Why did Apple become successful, right? You make good products, you innovate, you continue to put out, right? The iPhone 3 was already good. The 3S is my first iPhone. I was happy with it. But they continue to surprise us with new things. So they continue to grow because you surprise, well, good surprise, right? You surprise your collector with new collection, with better and more innovative work. So it's better ways to promote your work. And the more people and the more famous people like your work, and more likely you'll be more accepted in the high society, which is one choice. Or you become really popular, everybody knows about you, then you become a popular artist, which is another choice.
Right. So at some point there's that choice to go popular or go on the side of like high art, kind of. Would you say that's kind of the...
Yes. Usually you cannot really change. It's almost like this is going to be inappropriate. It's almost like when you're dating, you like this kind of profile, you like this kind of profile. You normally wouldn't, for a better life, to change your profile just to say, okay, I'm going to date and marry a wealthy person because that will make my life easier. Usually you either could take it or couldn't take it. you will fit in there or you wouldn't fit in there. Last video, I made a video about this, about succeeding in the high society in a sense. So like Ai Weiwei is a famous Chinese contemporary artist, and his father was one of the most established and most popular contemporary poet, modern contemporary poet. So of course he would fit into the high art because he has a family name, right? So he is in that kind of profile.
Interesting.
So if
So it's
you
kind
are
of
not, yeah,
mhm.
it's if you don't have what it takes, if you're not willing to reach what it takes to go to the high society, then you cannot. So it's not really like, oh, which way should I go? Usually it's like, I am 1.62 meters, so I'm just average height. Should I play basketball or should I go play volleyball? No, it's not something, oh, there's little I can do about it. So it's about finding your way, optimizing it.
Interesting. We have a question by Dr. D. That they have a question. Okay. I've started new and have sold a few pieces of art. Now what? How do you find the next step to find the buyers, galleries? How do you grow your business?
Okay, that's a very good question. So I would say when you already sold some pieces, but you don't have a very stable sale, let's say, because we were talking about business. So in the business world, you are making your own prototypes, like your first Dyson vacuum cleaner, right? Like Dyson as an innovator. So he started building it. He's like, okay, what should I do with this? What should I do with that? And he was experimenting. And as soon as he hit certain spots, the market responded positively. And he's like, that's what sells better. And then he interacts. So I would say on the product design, I know a lot of artists don't like these wordings, but since our topic today is about art and business, I will continue to mix languages.
Mix them.
I can, of course, I can, say your art discourse, but let's say when you are doing the product design, you can, of course, listen to the collectors. They are your first group of investors, right? They already purchased your work because something ticked with them, something clicked. So you ask them, how did you like it? Why did you like it? What was it for? Where are you gonna hang it, right? Is it art for his salon or is it his art for the office? So you start to know what is your target audience. You have enough data because you already sold some pieces. And when you interact with them, you get to know what are the positive side about your creations. And then you just make more of it to see how the market responds. But then, of course, your first immediate choice is your sales channels. So either you sell online, on Instagram, you sell on Facebook with ads, you sell on your own website, which is always a good option. You sell it in a gallery, you sell it with some trade shows, conventions, if you are a manga artist. A lot of times when artists don't realize is there are some channel conflicts. So that's what Dell computers, what IBM, a lot of, let's say, tech companies had this problem. Like even Apple has this problem, right? Apple has authorized resellers, have unauthorized resellers, have their own reconditioned units from another cell online. They sell on Amazon, they sell on their own website. And when they change their prices, of course, it's going to hurt a lot of people's interest. So they cannot. So once you have multiple sales channels, your prices are not so flexible anymore. Your communication is not so flexible anymore. And even they would require you not to sell it in another specific way, so to protect their interest, like galleries. Because galleries have a lot at stake as well when they sell your work. Means they're not selling other artists' works. It's an opportunity cost because they can only represent so many artists. They have a limited time capacity and wall space. Selling you means not selling others, means you better not to damage their interest, especially on purpose. That means you cannot sell it on Facebook.
Right. So basically just like finding the right the right sales channels for the work and like where it currently is in the market.
Yes, maybe through the feedback of your collectors. If they bought it mainly for office, 5 collector went last month to your studio, bought 10 pieces, 2 pieces each, and let's say more than half of them end up in their office, means you're in the B2B business. So maybe you do wholesaling, and maybe they bought for gifts. You're like, okay, you're in the gifting economy. Like sometimes you don't even know why your work sold. Like most creative people, when they decide to paint this, they don't think about how it's going to be sold and where it's going to be displayed. Few people thought about it.
That's really interesting. So really thinking about like the distribution channels and how that might interact with the buyers, and really looking at the display, like how is it, and the use case scenarios is what we're talking about.
Like a user feedback, right?
User
Like
feedback.
sometimes you go to a store, there's like a line of feedback with a sad face, meh face, and smelly face, and you have to hit that. What is this store asking you to give feedback, right? Why feedback is important? It is important because if you're not happy, they don't make changes, they die, right? So the user interaction is very important to collect the data, not in a, of course, illegal way, but collect data from your users. Of course, don't share it with any other person, but then have your own users kind of database and have a, let's say, some feedback and to know where the work is going, so you can focus on one kind of sales channel, because they are conflictive. So you have to choose. Down the road, you have to choose. And when you choose, how would you choose? Right? Should you sign this gallery so that you cannot sell it on your own website anymore? Or should you just turn down the offer because it's not that interesting anyway, and then focus on your own online business? How are you going to make that choice? Because it's not like one way is better than another way. Each artist should find their own way. So how to find their own way? I don't know them personally. I just say, listen to their customers. This is the best way for you to know where your art is going to fit in the market.
Interesting. So we have a question. Gina asks, everyone is subjective about the kind of artwork they like. So you've definitely got to find your audience. Maybe it's an audience of 1, maybe it's an audience of 1 billion. What about licensing of artworks and reproduction rights?
Okay, so I would really recommend Gina to take like a IPR crash course. I think that has helped me enormously. When I studied in the performing arts school, I took a course of copyright laws, basically redistribution of films. That was my 4 years of specialization of rights of redistribution and reproduction in a way. And that's a very deep thing. Like there are so many holes when you're walking in the dark. If you don't have a torch, someone's gonna catch you in the dark. Like it's so tricky. Even after studying 4 years, I wasn't very sure of, because in every country is different as well. And the world doesn't have a copyright law of the world. There isn't a thing. So every even state has their own copyright rules. So you really need to, before signing any contract, signing any licensing things, to really understand what are you really selling and how is that going to impact your art business. I'm not saying don't do it, it's so dangerous, but it's good to do it, but in a way that you are in control and you give full consent, so you're not lured into some kind of traps. There are so many of them.
Yeah, I was just reading an article about how Disney Plus was like buying back its right. Disney was like buying back its rights for all these films for its online catalogs and all of that. And just like it got kind of like, it had all of these films out, and then it's like, oh, I want them back. So that it has to pay like extra money to just get the reproduction rights back.
Disney is a both good and bad example. They were able to change laws. They were able to lobby and change laws. Usually in the world, it's 50 years after author has died for the copyright, and then it becomes a human heritage that's like lullabies, right? We all own it once it becomes human. It's generation passes on, it doesn't matter, right? It's not like a great grandson of somebody going to claim millions of dollars from some kind of reproduction rights. No. But Disney was able to change that and extension. Now it's 95 years in the US.
Right. And it's like by the company law versus the it's the after the company's death versus the person.
Yes, it was the first publication between 1920s to 1940s. You have like an extension, blah blah blah. But really, it's really the result of lobbying of a large company. So if you are signing, especially with large companies, they have the lawyers. They have a lot of things that they might not be telling you. So it's to fight against them. They can't even change laws. What else can you do, right? So it's very important before signing anything, submitting anything. I know that people who are crazy about submitting for competitions, awards, but also when you submit awards, they might have the right to, you know, exhibit those things, the winners. I would say the best way is to do all the things yourself. You don't need to license to produce millions of copies to get your work to every corner of the world. If you want to like print on demand, you can do it yourself. Nobody needs to do it for you when you can do it yourself. Nowadays, use Printify, Printful. There's a million other providers out there. There's a long list. I was doing research and I was like, okay, I'm going to make a list of 10. And now I have like a list of 100 pages.
Wow.
So I was like, what do I do with the list? So like, of course, I started building like more information, not just a title, but then now I have like a, yeah.
Where can we find this? Where can
yeah, so now I'm
find
like,
this?
what do I do with the information? So I'm like, okay, I wrap it up and then probably I will make it slowly available because I don't want to wait until it's finished. As a content creator, it's good to also share a bit. So now I'm doing some kind of booklets little by little on our Patreon. We have a Patreon account as well. We do coaching on Patreon, which is not exactly the way that most people use Patreon because we want to really know our users. Again, users are very important to hear their feedback, to hear from them, and then produce some booklets, 35 pages with information, with reviews. Most of our information is online and publicly available for free on our website, our social media. I make YouTube videos, IGTV things, as well as other, in every social media we have presence because that's what it's about today, right? Like getting the world out there. So a lot of artists are also very shy about it, like don't want to share. And they are also asking me a lot of questions like, if I share on Instagram, am I losing the rights? Or if I sell on Society 6, am I losing the rights? So there's a big difference between the licensing to a large company like Disney kind of merchandising versus you share it on social media, you, let's say, give the permission to let a third party to produce those works for you on the merchandise is very different. You don't lose your copyrights. You don't give away your rights like 100%. You give them that per occasion, per order, the rights for them to use your designs, your motif, your design, your layout, or your artwork, however you call it. I know design, a lot of artists say, it's not a design, it's my art. Oh, I know it's the wording thing, excuse my wording. So
no, go for it. I come from the design world, so I come
so
from the industrial design, yeah.
Yeah, they're afraid their designs might be taken away. But again, like, there's a middle way, okay? When you sign with a big company to give away the rights to reproduce massively is a different thing. Or when you license per work per order to a print-on-demand company like Society 6 is a different thing. And you don't be too cautious. It's not like they're gonna steal your work. You're not cows, you're not like, you know, they might want to steal cows' work because it's immediately profitable. But if they have to do all the hard work marketing for you and then they steal your work, I would say it's fair. It's free marketing, right? Like, and then you didn't license them, so you just sue them, and then you get back the rights. They even pay for the damages. So, like, hey, you know, it's not that bad as long as you know what you're doing. When you submit the works to the platforms, you read carefully, you know what you're doing, and as long as it's a full consent, then it's not that dangerous or bad. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. So don't hold yourself back from exploring all the different sources of income, of revenue, like print on demand, like sharing your works on your own website, and then using like Printify, Printful. I also have questions like, oh, is the Printify, Printful will harvest my data? Like, they would have my files in order to print it. They will have to keep my files, otherwise they cannot print it, right? Like, but then it's, I know the concern is a valid concern, but there should be some levels of trust as well to the world. Like when you upload a work to a platform or social media, at least you trust that they will not like steal your whole identity. At the same time, you need to know, of course, when you're signing a contract, what you're doing.
Right. Look through it, read the contract is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and also understanding the terms. So to really, it's going to work for you even after you are not here anymore 50 years. So it's a good investment for your children as well. Yourself knowing what you're doing will secure for the next 50 years after you die, like your grandchildren, you could basically pay for your grandchildren to go to college if you do it right, right? If you produce artworks that are popular, that are renowned and protected from harm, it's good. It's one of the, if I have to suggest the artist to study one thing outside of art, I would say IPR, intellectual property right.
Do you have any like online resources for people to study that?
Every state is different.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you're based, wherever you, let's say your tax residence, usually if you're tax residents of this country, especially when you work and live in that country of state, of a region, usually you have to study there. But there are some general laws and ideas that are universal. And I am thinking about putting more information like that on my YouTube and also on our Patreon, because every month I produce booklets. So that's a good, if you think that's interesting, that's a good feedback. I will definitely provide more information. I was working in the European Union's, they call it EU IPO, so the Intellectual Property Right Office of the European Union for 3 years. So I'm not exactly a practitioner in law, but I have some kind of knowledge. So shoot, if you have a question. So yeah.
Very cool. So I have another question. I just recently did a curation for show fields in New York City. So it's a lot of top level photographers as part, like I had 15 top level photographers as part of the show because I'm also a photographer. So
yes, I see that also.
Yeah.
Me too. That makes sense. High five.
High five. Cool. So I had a lot of questions about kind of like breaking out, breaking from like the photojournalist world into the fine art world and like that,
Yeah.
and breaking from these different photography areas into other ones, and especially into like the fine art and making prints and doing editions and pricing. And I thought you might have some ideas on that.
Yes, totally. That's something very, very essential when you're a photographer. You want to enter the art world. Is one of the biggest struggles, and that was similar to what I've experienced when I was coming out of performance art school, because performing arts drama school, because theater is a form of art, but commercial theater like movie is very different than fine art. And if you even if you are a successful cinematographer and you want to enter art world, you find a lot of barriers. And I call it non-technical barrier to trade, because technically you're good, and non-technical barrier in the international relation world is usually, oh my God, this is going to be also very inappropriate. So if a developed country like US, like Europe, you want to stop some merchandise from a non-developed, from a developing country, let's say Bangladesh, China, Vietnam, or Thailand, which are the biggest textile producers in the world today, and you want to, let's say, stop them at the customs because they're selling it too cheap. So what you usually do is a non-technical barrier, because the textiles are good quality and you don't have any technical methods to stop them. It's compliant. Right? So it has all the certificate, it's organic cotton, whatever. And how do you stop the merchandise from entering? You create a non-technical barrier to trade, which is usually human rights. You're not from a democratic country. Your people are enslaved, so you cannot sell slave brass. There was a big incident in European Union about the brass that China has produced that was €1 at the cost of production. So European Union stopped it at the customs of the IFTAs, free trade area of the European Union, at the border when the ships come in. And we say, there is €1 bra. There's no way that people can produce a bra for €1. That means it's a violation of human rights, right? Like, of course, it's many things, and you can interpret it in different ways. So this is what normally journalists going to the art world would experience, because then the art world would say, wait, that's not art, that's journalism. Right? Then they say, you don't have art discourse. Then they say, wait, which school did you go? That's not an art school. Like, of course, they will not say that out loud, but it's very hard to enter because of this whole discourse thing. Because journalism is objective and, in a way, technical and useful. Let's say it has some utility. It has a lot of utility. It's a dissemination of information, and information is the most important thing in our society today. So it's useful, right? And how can, for example, a Dyson fan or an iPhone is not in the art museum as a piece of art? Why? Because it's useful. You see, it doesn't have art discourse. And this is something that stops a lot of people. And it's also kind of easy to get over if you're willing to commit because of this. An artist who would finish an MFA, Master in Fine Art, would spend first 4 years in most countries to terminate the BFA, Bachelor in Fine Art, and then study 1 year to 3 years, depending on where you are in the world, on average 2 years to finish. So after they spend 6 years of their life in misery, because art school isn't fun, I tell you that. And why would you come in with a 1DX? Right? And like you come in with 1DX, okay, your barrier to journalism usually is two things. You have a 1DX or 5D4, okay, like you have a, I'm talking about the camera, right? You don't need Hasselblad. You don't need Hasselblad. You don't need phase one. You don't need medium format. You're a journalist. All you have to do is to get $1,500 in a B&H. Not sponsored. Are they still there around? They're still around?
Wait, B&H is on? Wait,
they're still there? I mean, after the crisis, I have no idea.
Oh, they're around. They're around. I get their emails every day.
Okay, so I've never been to a B&H.
Oh, you should.
I've never been to the
Oh my God.
I know, it's my dreamland. I will go and play with every piece of gear there. All you
and
need
little
to
candies. They got little candies all around. They have little candies all around the store. I like those.
Cool. So all
it
you
is like a
do
taste
is
to going in the store. They're very smart.
Yeah. You go to the store,
Mm-hmm.
you grab a camera, you insert the SD card, charge the camera, and you go to, okay, you risk a bit. You go to a war zone. Okay, you go to the parade, you go to a riot, and you take photos. And now you're a photojournalist because it's about what you do. It's not about who you are. It's about what you do. You do it, you become a photojournalist. And most of my friends are photojournalists working for Alliance France Press, so a lot of them. So I know that the risks they take is hard work. Some of them are war journalists. They were in Sarajevo. I mean, they were in like war zones. Of course, it's Syria. They're probably in Syria now, and it's difficult job, but you don't need 6 years being in a classroom every day, 8 hours a day for 6 years to say, I am a fun artist. So if they have done that and you have not, I'm just assuming you in general, of course they have a right to say, you don't have this course, right? I mean, they sacrificed the time they have sacrificed, the money they have paid. Of course, compared to a photojournalist, it could be equivalent, but also there are a lot of photojournalists, they take a camera, they take a documentary of their own neighborhood. So the amount of sacrifice and dedication depends. There are some more, there are some less. But if you say, I have an MFA, you went to art school, you show the certificate, at least there is a standardized commitment to it. Right? So of course they will create some barriers. That's fair, right?
Interesting.
Isn't it fair, right? That's of course from their perspective, because my partner is an MFA. So he was complaining a lot about like the hard work and all this obscurity or the strange things in the art world. That isn't a fun world. It's not like going on a cruise on a holiday for 6 years. No, it's hard work. It's a lot of doubts and self-destruction along the way. And when they come out of it, there is something more, of course. So if you want to go to an art school and you're hesitating, this is by far the easiest entry ticket. Even that will take you maybe $25,000, $35,000 a year for 6 years, but this is what is going to get you in almost 100%. Which school did you go?
I went to Point Park, and then I went to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. Yeah. So I was there, and then I traveled. I was doing design research for a while, and so I got you on the on the research end of it all. I went to visited China and all of that.
Cool.
It was, yeah. I've been there a couple times, so it's a cool place. It's
cool.
Interesting. Yeah. It's fascinating. I love it there. I love it. So I love Madrid. I love China. I love all over the world.
You've been to all of the places.
I've been to a lot of places. I lived in India for a while. I lived.
Now, do you think that around the world, when you talk to artists around the world, do you think that the biggest barrier when they tried from outside of the art world to enter the art world, the biggest barrier is the closed circle, the defense line of the academias, of this attitude of non-technical barrier to trade? Do you think this is the biggest, or you think the biggest is non-formulated, non-consistency, or from the artists themselves, the outsiders? Do you think it's their own limitation that they couldn't penetrate the wall, or is the wall too strong?
I don't know that I have the answers to this one, but I think they're very good questions. I don't know the answers. I feel like for me, I'm trying to find this, like, where is it? Where are all these different parts? And as I have different people on my Instagram lives, just trying to share that knowledge that I'm finding in the world. You're part of my design research exercise.
What is the topic of the
topic
research?
Is curiosity. The topic is curiosity. So
kill the cats. I have 3 cats. Oh no. Curiosity. Kill the cats.
Oh no.
It's a dangerous business.
No, it's all about, it's just curiosity without the killing. I think that, it's very interesting. When I was in India, it was a very interesting thing. Everyone just had such immense curiosity and passion for curiosity. Every day I walked out and it was a new artistic experience. How much that related to the art world I don't know. But for me, it was like artistically inspiring. So I feel like there's these different sides of the artist and the experience, the living as an artist, the business of the art, all of these different experiences. What is the utility? What is the design? How do we understand, the market sides? And so I just find it interesting getting to listen to and share these, just like yours. And I've been meeting so many other amazing people through this series of interviews, or my discussion interviews, whatever they are.
Yes, I watched some of them, and I really like the fact that you interview people from all over the world. That's really important. It's not always looking down at the belly button of your own region. Of course, that's going to be a more widening and eye-opening experience. Always talking to people far away from another, a bit exotic.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, I think that's kind of the beautiful thing, is that as we go beyond our own regions, is that then we can have a greater way to connect. And I feel like as an artist, it's kind of like deep, and I have a background in like psychology. It's like deepening into like the Jungian kind of like that greater unconscious. It deepens that ability to connect and understand when we go across the world, when we connect across, I have a whole series on Freedom Tapestry Project where I have a lot of Syrian artists that I'm connecting with. In Syria, we just had an amazing Syrian artist who lives in Egypt, and just kind of like all these backgrounds. And I find it fascinating, that connection and ability to deeply connect. Now we only have like a minute or two left, so I know we have a lot of questions, and you're all just going to have to add us both and DM us, because that's how much time we have.
That's too bad. It was really nice talking to you. And I really like the topic of curiosity, because that's also something also in the business world. Because like when you look around, you're like, everywhere there are a lot of business opportunities, and you just see demand. But then, like, of course, the moment you want to fulfill them, it's like you don't have, one lifetime is not enough to do all the projects you want to do all the things, to talk to all the people. Yeah. So I guess it's about live long and prosper. It's not about how old you are. It's about how many years you can still live, right? So drink water and take the vitamin.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Do you have any other inspirational words that you would like to share? We've got like 2 minutes left.
42. Do not panic.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I feel like I should put that red book right there behind me.
They will think you're celebrating 42 birthday. No, you put
that'd be nice. That'd be nice. For everybody else out there, we have some Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy references. So, so go read that book. I'm going to highly suggest it. It's one of my favorite books.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
My Bible.
Do you have another favorite book that you'd like to share? Book or two? Or a movie or something?
Oh, yeah, I have actually a lot of books that I have to do some reviews, because there are a lot of
wait. Take them closer to us. Take us closer so that we can see what these books are.
Yeah,
because so I saw that you were doing the
reviews.
Book review.
Yeah, so I will have to take the time and do all of the reviews one by one, but I collected all the art business books. So I would say they're all good, and they have a very different aspect, each of them. Some are from the academic world, some are from the business world. And I would say if you have time, they are the best teachers, because then it's only 10 to 20 bucks per book, and it's the lifetime knowledge of this author, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and it's really worth it. And then after reading them, I think you start to get the sensation of what is that barrier, because if you are required to know all of that, the knowledge of decades condensed before entering the art world is surely very intimidating, but at least you have a small idea of what you are confronting. What is that wall that might be stopping you from entering? And you can, let's say, fortify a ticket by reading art books and art business books, art history books, then you can say, okay, you know, I know all the keywords. Sesame, open.
Wow, cool. Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you. Vivian wants to know what these books are called.
Oh yeah,
Do you have some names?
well, there are a lot of them. So this is a good one, Art INC. So I take notes. You can see that. Of course, there are some for outside of art people about, you know, the contemporary art balloon dog, and there's some more pro artists about writing about your art. And this one is very good for art school graduates or who wants to pursue academic art career. It's it's like a career office of an art school teacher. Actually, she is wrote it, so it's very interesting. This is one of my favorite, Corey Hoff. This book is produced a long time ago, but it's still quite relevant. I hope he would produce a second version of it because online world goes changes every 2 weeks. So we need an update. This is an interesting B2B, sell art to interior designers. It's a B2B kind of, let's say, wholesale channeling book. And then launching your art career. This one is also very interesting by Alex Sloan. It's not exactly for art school graduates, but for a bit of for everybody. And this one is a bit mixed, I have to say. They are written by 2 art school graduates, so they are students when they wrote the book. So my problem with it is the layout. There were some obviously outsourced designs, and there are some layout problems that they actually repeat some of the layouts in different pages. That's my problem. If they could get a better editor, outsource. This is one of my favorite too, but there's a second book from Edward Winkleman. The second book is much better, much more relevant because the first book is a bit old. Selling Contemporary Art is from a perspective of an art dealer. He is a gallerist. Art and Work. I haven't reviewed this one, but it's also very good. It's very comprehensive. And look at one thing I have a problem with is they have 1 page of black. How many fish died for it? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a division. It's just a decoration. So they print ink. So it's not ecologic.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not ecologic, but it's the only problem. But they have really cute designs, and it's very easy to read. It's also very beautiful cover artwork. And this one is for digital artists, a very good book for digital artists. Very niche. It's not about any kind of artist, but just for digital art. Concept art, of course, it's not digital art. And this one is also good. How to make a living. It's quite theoretic, but it's okay. And a bit contemporary art style. You know, it's about some kind of discourses and human relation. There was a chapter telling you always say thank you as a career guide. I don't know. Thank you. Say like be polite to people. Yeah. So it's an artist life guide. It's like, thank you. I always say thank you. And I always say thank you. And then they say, are you Japanese? I'm like, why you ask? Yeah. And the last book is Expedient Photography. It's more like a exhibition for photographers. Yeah, it's cute. If you're a photographer mounting your own exhibition for the first time, it can be useful. Yeah, so those are all of those books.
Wow. And so this whole thing is going to be posted afterwards. So if you want to go back and check out any of those books, feel free to rewind, go back, go through, take notes. So many things.
I also review some of them on YouTube, and I will continue to review them because sometimes I feel like by the time I reviewed it, then the second edition comes out and I have to get the new edition. So I was like, okay, I'm going to wait a little. You know, like waiting for a new iPhone. It's like, okay, iPhone 12 is coming. Should I wait? Should I not wait? So I was a bit lazy. So I will do my work.
No, I understand. Oh, thank you, Henrietta, for making this happen. I appreciate you and suggesting today's what we did. us hanging out and connecting. So anybody else have, and people that I should connect with and have on these things and have information, feel free to DM me and add both of us up here. And later on, we'll have links in the comments descriptions. I think we're running up against the hour mark. I'm not sure. So it hasn't come up with like the 2-minute warning that it always comes up with. I'm not sure what time.
Oh, stressful, but we are very close to the, yeah.
We're very close to it.
60
So
minutes. Yeah, that's good that we
so
are perfectly on time. I run through the books like, but yeah, it's a bit too rough.
exactly. So
Next
thank
time
you so
I will.
much.
Yeah, thank you too much.
Thank you.
Like
Should we
always say thank you?
thank you. Should we answer what question? We had a question here. We might have a minute to answer a question. Uh, You know, I just, if there's I would like to we had like a couple of them. On the end of artists from the outside world are also inconsistent and insecure. I don't know. Said artisty. And what Henrietta said, it's what level you want to rise to as well. Gina said, talent and hard work speaks much greater than a piece of paper diploma. No one should be denied an opportunity based on lack of education or educational opportunity. So thank you all so
Yeah,
much.
for the ones, yeah, thank you for. So I just want to say, whoever wants to get a free education, come to Europe. It's completely for free.
MFA?
Yes, it's continental Europe education is completely for free. You just have to speak French, Spanish, or German.
Interesting. Interesting. So learn some French, Spanish.
Parlez-vous français? So you just speak that language and it's for free. So you just have to be admitted. Education is free. So if you're wanting it that bad, not having money is not exactly the biggest problem. It's not wanting it is the problem.
That's a good note to leave people on.
Yeah, it's not about super optimistic or not, because I grew up very poor. The first time I saw a dentist when I was 15, and I have the teeth falling out, and I had to go to a dentist, or I have it falling out, or actually finally I had it pulled out instead. But anyway, I grew up very poor too, in a developing country, not to a very well family. They're both starving artists. Guess what? Artist lifestyle. At that time it was difficult, but it's possible, right? Like eventually, with given time and opportunities, and like people normally say talent and hard work, but I wouldn't really say talent, because talent usually have a connotation of God given. If you don't believe in God, you're like, who gives me? But yeah, like talent, hard work, as a cliche, as a way of saying it, like I say, design art, right? So tolerance should be both ways. So I would say God-given talent and hard work, and with some opportunities is for the prepared ones, and eventually it will come, and you better get ready.
That's a beautiful note to leave this on. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Mo, for being here. Thank you to everyone who joined us here, who will watch this now, who will watch this later. Yeah, your first live. Thank you. And go up here, follow us. Yes, follow us, or down at the bottom afterwards. Find us both. I'm at Aaron Jack Line Art, and
we are very private art.
Very private art. So thank you. This is Artist to Artist, and till next time.
See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.